Hello, welcome to the show. My name is Andy Algreen. I'm a real estate agent and investor here in Central Iowa. In this video, I'm going to give you a 2022 year-end review for what happened in the Central Iowa real estate market. And I want to give a shout out to Sulgrove with SimplyDesMoines. He does a really good job of tracking almost all of the real estate data, if not all of it. And that's kind of where my go-to when I am going to look at any real estate data. And I just want to give a shout out to him. I'm pulling a couple graphs off his videos. So here we go. To start off, if you really like numbers and want to dig into all the data and see all the graphs, I highly recommend going and checking out Les's website and all of his YouTube videos. He does a really good job of that. And I'm kind of, like I said before, I'm going to take a few graphs from his latest video and kind of get my perspective on it. And I'm going to show the ones that I think might be the most important. The first one I want to look at is the history of sales volume versus the number of sales. I like this graph because it goes back to 2009 and shows the history over the past 14 years. So you can kind of see in the start of 2020 when COVID happened and the low interest rates kind of started, a lot more people started buying houses. And then at the start of this year, previous year, 2022, in that March timeframe when interest rates rose, you can tell from this graph that the sales kind of decreased from peaking around that 17,000 down to 15,500. But obviously, you can see we're still trending way ahead of where we were prior to COVID. So I think it's all about perspective. You could say, if you're only looking at the past 2 years, you could say that we did have a down year comparatively when you look at the number of sales. But you can see over the last 10 years that we are still ahead of where we were. So just all about perspective and where you're looking at. Next graph I want to look at here is the home price appreciation graph. Les kind of splits it up into two different categories here. So on the left side, you have the single family homes, and then on the right side, you have your condo townhomes. Just to point out, he's not including new construction homes in this graph. So we're only looking at existing homes and existing condo townhomes. So the average overall single family home price appreciation for 2022 was 8.2%. For the condo townhome, that was 7.4%. One thing to note is that this is an overall average for the entire Central Iowa real estate market. So kind of like I said, it's all about perspective. So you could be living in, and I don't know the exact numbers, I haven't dug into the details or anything. This is just an example. But you could be living over in Adel, and you might not have seen the same price appreciation that Waukee or Ankeny or Grimes had. It's all very hyper local. So if you want to figure out exactly how much your home appreciated, you're gonna have to go back and look at the comparable sales and figure out what other homes kind of sold for in your area to see if your home has appreciated in that 10, 12%, 8%, 4%, 3%. Sometimes just going in and looking at Zillow and looking at your estimate isn't always accurate because they aren't looking at the hyper local data. They kind of are using their own algorithm, and they don't really have the boots on the ground type stuff, and they aren't sometimes 100% accurate. So I just kind of warn you for looking at this estimate. If you really truly want a market analysis done on your home, feel free to reach out to me. Happy to do that for you and just give you my opinion on what I think your home is worth. The third graph I want to look at is the mortgage interest rates versus the purchase power. Starting in January through the entire year, purchasing power just kept dropping as interest rates rose. One thing to note here is that Les is using a $1,200 monthly mortgage payment, and he's also excluding insurance and taxes. So what he is saying here is that at the beginning of the year in January, you could have afforded a $270,000 house at a 3.22% interest rate. And as the year went on and interest rates increased up to that 6.42% at the end of the year, the house you could afford at the beginning of the year essentially dropped down to $190,000, which you can see in the middle of the graph was about an $85,000 drop. Over the past 2 years, COVID just essentially inflated everything, and people were able to afford homes that they might not have been able to before. And we are going back into a normalized market. So interest rates are still sitting around that 6.5%. Depending on what type of loan you get. I don't think it's anything to be afraid of. I think it's something to be aware of. And just knowing the facts, it's essentially just supply and demand. As interest rates increase, purchasing power is going to decrease. I've been having some conversations with lenders in the Des Moines area, and majority of them have said that interest rates are predicted, and obviously nobody has a crystal ball or anything like that and can't see into the future, but they're predicting that interest rates are going to fall around and stick around that 5.5% range kind of starting in the summer to fall timeframe. Whether that's true or not, you just never know. Something major could happen in the economy and that could just shift everything, but that's just what they're predicting as of right now. And the last graph I want to look at is the median list price of all homes. You can see that the median list price of all homes in 2022 obviously is higher than it was in 2021. And throughout the year, it didn't really decrease. So as interest rates increased, buyers had less buying power. But you can see from this graph that the median list price essentially increased into the summer, and then it did decrease a little bit, but it still ended up being around that $350,000 mark. Over the last year, we were seeing basically homes that were priced around that $400K mark or under if they were move-in ready, fixed up, ready to go. Like you moved in, you didn't have to do any work to them, and they were priced correctly for the market. Buyers were still buying them. They didn't sit on the market very long, but if it wasn't that updated and it wasn't priced correctly, or even if it was move-in ready and it wasn't priced correctly for the market, it wasn't selling. Days on market increased because interest rates increased. So I just wanted to give you my perspective on those few graphs here. And obviously, if you want to dig in a little bit deeper, happy to have a conversation in person. Also, kind of like I said before, really highly recommend Les's videos. He does a really good job, digs in a bit deeper. Again, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Would really appreciate it. Bye.